Hello, you guys. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. Good to have you here. Tonight, we're going to talk about timber, and we're going to also talk about an election. We're going to talk about Lane County commissioners. Bob Zybach, a wonderful man. I gave you a really good write-up at the beginning too, Bob. I mean, a historic. This guy knows the history. He knows how timber operates. He knows everything about it, and that's why he's running for county commissioner. He knows more than just about trees, but somebody needs to be on the county commission in Lane County that understands timber. And so Bob has put himself out there to be that guy. So let's get our sponsors in here. Crisdental Family Dentistry, Dr. Michael Bratlin. Everything they use when they do crowns, and they're experts at crowns, is from America, made in America. In fact, their crowns are made in Idaho, not China, like most places use. Engles Furniture and Mattress Company in Coos Bay, North Bend. Steve Nye, your furniture guy, who loves the fact that people get to hear information, get to make up their own minds, that nobody should be told what to think. And Steve is really big on that. And every other Thursday, they do a show. We talk about Coos Bay, North Bend, and what's going on there. So be sure you tune in for that. And the Innovative Law Group, Mr. Alan Thayer and his business partner, they do all kinds of work, business law. But what we want you to know the most about is Oregon is one of 12 states that taxes you after you're dead. They won't even let you die without taxing you. They have the highest. I just watched an article today. Oregon is the most expensive state in the whole country to live in because of the taxes there. That's why retired people are moving away. But you want to get your plan together, so they'll help you come up with a plan so that you don't give all your money to Tina Kotek and those Democrats trying to railroad the state of Oregon. Instead, you can give it to your kids where it should go. Damn it. I can't believe that. When Alan told me that, I was so pissed. I'm like, oh my God, you even have to keep, like, once they're dead, their body's not even cold and you're still taxing them. Bob, talk to me.
Hey, Rick, good to see you.
Oh, yes, good. We have sound. Hey, it is so good to have you on here. Bob has guts. I mean, Bob Zybach is a gutsy man. He is running for office, has never done it before. He's outspent by everybody, but that's not the point. Bob's here to make change and give you guys information, and that part of your campaign is really working, right, Bob?
I think it is. We're starting to get O&C lands, and we're starting to get national forest lands and restoring those lands into the conversation and discussion. And that was my whole reason for running, actually.
So talk to me about what you've, because you're new to this whole industry. What have you learned that not about the job or anything like that, but just campaigning and running for office? What have you learned?
That politics is a disgusting business. I was a non-voting libertarian for 40 years for this reason. I got into politics because of the new administration. There's some blue sky for the first time since the early 90s in the Clinton plan to actually make a difference in policy. And I figured the time was right to try to reach a larger audience.
What is your concern with the current county commission and understanding of timber industries, which a lot of money used to come to Lane County from timber revenue, and they killed that?
It's not just this county. There's 18 O&C counties. There's 700 counties with national forest land. They're all facing increased wildfire risk, increased wildfire damage, increased unemployment, toxic smoke from these fires. It's all unprecedented. And now the result, because they're not salvage logging, is an even greater wildfire risk than ever existed, probably in thousands of years.
You know, Bob, I was at the American Foresters Resources Council, AFRC's thing, and Mr. Schultz, the new Forest Service director, was there speaking, and he was really complimentary of Nick Smith, who came up with this program that I'm involved with in terms of shooting timber stories called the Healthy Forest, Healthy Communities. And he said, you cannot have, and we can put this into any language. How do you have a healthy community or a healthy Lane County or a healthy Josephine County or any county without a healthy forest. And we're learning that we have mismanaged them. And that's a lot of the reason that Lane County is struggling and has no money.
Yep. Well, we actually should have learned that in 2002 and 2003 with the Biscuit and B&B fire, that this experiment of passive management is a gross failure, a documented failure, and yet this persisted because of politics. The idea that a healthy forest was that has dead trees and standing snags and a multi-layered canopy was invented out of whole cloth by Jerry Franklin more than everybody. Norm Johnson was the architect, the politician, and they got together and formed the Clinton Plan. Earth First did protests, and suddenly unhealthy forests verging on catastrophic wildfire with dead fuels everywhere, snags to spread the sparks, ladder fuels, which they called the multi-layered canopy. There were many of us in the early 90s saying, this is a firebomb. It's going to put people out of work, and we shouldn't do it. So it's been very apparent. My definition since the 1980s that I've been writing about and editorializing about and talking to people about is a healthy forest always has a healthy human component to it. You take away the humans, you don't have a natural process. You've got an unnatural situation that's artificially created. And in the case of lodgepole pine or Douglas fir, you're asking for catastrophic wildfires. They were predictable. They've taken place. Those of us making these predictions, whether scientifically or based on experience, were canceled and ignored. But with the new administration, it looks like they finally got rid of a lot of the nonsense regarding global warming related to wildfires and so on. So that's the hope.
Does it blow you away sometimes, Bob, that, if people have ever had a garden, that's probably the problem. They haven't. You can't have 6 apple trees all growing together like this, taking the nutrients from each other. You have to go in and thin. And with tomato plants, something basic like a tomato plant. I had a friend one time and she had it was just all this greenery. She goes, there's no tomatoes. I said, would you turn your head? Because I'm going to prune this for you and it's going to hurt. And I pruned that thing off. 2 weeks later, she had tomatoes everywhere. But that's part of nature's process. And the environmental community has lied and sold the general public this idea that if you just let Mother Nature take care of it, she'll take care of it. And you've got rotting trees that produce carbon, and then you've got fires that produce massive carbon, in the air and atmosphere. If you go in and trim these things out, thin them, animals like it. It makes habitat. We seem like we're so concerned about animals. Bears and elk do not hang out in forests that are that they can't get through. They can't, they're lazy. They don't want to have to work to get through there.
Well, they talk about biodiversity, and it's not the environmental organizations. They're just a front group for the environmental law industry, which has been growing in stature and capability for decades. I've been documenting that as it goes. But the open areas that were created with Indian fires or logging or Columbus Day storms or Tillamook fires. The biodiversity includes wildflowers, butterflies, songbirds, deer, elk, bear, and people. And that's the part that the law industry has changed the language. Now, conservation used to be a timber term for sustained yield. They refined it down to sustained yield. Now conservation means anti-logging. So that's one of my latest articles is on that very topic, how that came about.
John Bolton on here, he says, the Forest Service has been over-thinning healthy forests and destroying whole ecosystems.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. I guess he doesn't have any experience in forestry.
What kind of experience do you have in forestry, Bob? Because I think, John, and we hate to do that to you, but you know what? That's just bullshit. I can say bullshit. So what kind of experience do you have in the forest products, just so people understand the forest industry and the science of this?
Well, one grandfather was a logger. Another great-grandfather was a sawmill owner. I'm a 5th or 6th or 7th generation Oregonian, depending on whether you want to count people that came here or were born here. But I was in the reforestation industry for more than 20 years before returning to college and getting my PhD. And so my crews did about 85,000 acres of reforestation. I'm one of only 2 people I know in the Pacific Northwest that personally planted more than 2 million trees. So I've been through every type of wildfire, prescribed fire, logging, clear cut, thinning, in Idaho, Western Washington, Western Oregon, Northern California. I did it for decades before returning to school. So I actually have boots on the ground forestry and a lot of planted trees behind me that have already been cut, a lot of them.
As you're running for county commissioner, so when you look at the county of Lane County and you think, okay, so what they have done, what do you, and I don't mean smile at, nobody wants things to go badly, but it's like, for how many years we've been, cutting off our own nose to spite our face. And here's this money out there that we should be, we could be using the logs, thinning the logs, using that byproduct to make homes, to build affordable housing. I mean, kind of go through that whole lineage, because how much have we damaged this stuff?
It's crazy and it's artificial. My district in Lane County has over 1 million acres of national forest land and 300,000 acres of O&C land. Those used to produce thousands of jobs, people for thousands of years, not just logging and recent road building, but have worked and lived in these forests. It's an interrelationship. Right now, in the last 5 years, under the current county commissioner, 400,000 acres is burned. Most of it, that's just the record. That's never happened before. It heavily polluted the local communities. We've got 40,000 people a year dying from toxic smoke inhalation from wildfires. The smoke was so thick from East Lane County that at one point it drifted north to Seattle, made it the most polluted city, big city in the world. So this smoke reality is something that the urban population and voters should be learning about. As far as the abandonment of 400,000 acres of dead trees, now they're rotting. Another thing that the environmental community did that you touched on is they've somehow invented CO2, a building block of life, as a pollutant. And I almost used one of your Democrat terms in that. It's ridiculous. It has been a sickening thing to watch the towns go broke, to watch them burn up like Blue River and not be rebuilt 5 years later. It's like LA, they can't get building permits, maybe 50% after 5 years. The county commissioners have not represented these lands at all. And the law is very clear on Forest Service and on O&C lands is to be managed for the specific benefit of the county. The county commissioners have a specific obligation by law, and those laws have never been repealed. Instead, they stopped logging on a bunch of environmental lawsuits, let the lands rot, burn, get gated, our campgrounds burn up, our trails abandoned, our roads purposefully destroyed. If the North Koreans were systematically destroying our forests and our rural towns the way that the government and the environmental law industry have been doing, it would be an act of war. So it's got to stop. It should have stopped a long time ago. This isn't what we were left as children or young adults. And it's just disgusting that this is what we're handing off to my grandchild and my great-grandchildren. It's just wrong.
So talk to me about Heather Buch, the current county commissioner, because I know you have some ideas about that as well.
Well, she's not representing the people in East Lane County. She doesn't know the first thing about forestry. Hasn't done any work on these 400,000 acres that have burned up. The towns are going broke. And she voted herself a $25,000 raise last year without letting the people in on the process.
How much?
$25,000 raise. In Benton County, the county commissioners get $33,000 a year. In Lane County, thanks to Heather and the 2 other Democrat commissioners, they voted themselves a $25,000 raise. It began a year ago, January 1st. So this is the second year they're getting that massive raise, and she hasn't done anything to represent timber industry or the rural communities in her district.
So you cut funding by not logging, and then you take a pay raise of $25,000 per commissioner.
Yep.
because you and I mean, I don't know about you, but we both got a $25,000 raise last year, right? On the backs of the taxpayers of Wayne County. I mean, I'm sure you got yours. Wasn't it on your check, Bob?
I didn't get it.
Pretty
It must have been
disgusting, isn't it? I mean, people should be outraged by this stuff because, you know, it's like I was just one of the stories I'm producing is out of Skamania County, and they have nothing else but timber. I mean, they don't have flat land. They can't have, you know, Apple's not going to come in and put in a Google Center. It's not going to come in, none of that stuff. So they've got nothing but timber, and they're sitting there. Their schools are cut. They've had to close 2 schools. They're down to 2 schools. They can't even do better education. They're spending the money they get from grants just to keep the foundation and the school buildings operating. So it has nothing to do with getting their kids educated. And they look out the windows and there's all that timber. That's their savings account that they're looking. And I think Lane County is the same thing. That's your savings account out there. And it needs to be thin so the animals will come in and use it. But you're not only protecting it, so we come up with these laws that we're protecting the old growth and protecting forests, but really all this, most of the spotted owl habitat that we protected burned in the fire over Labor Day several years ago. So that didn't work.
Yeah, they're protecting the environmental law industry. It's got nothing to do with the animals. They're just surrogates. We've got the exact same problem in Lane County. It should be one of the richest timber counties or areas in the world. It used to be. Our schools are now on welfare. You can call them grants if you want, but SRS and subsidized housing and Section 8 housing and free food and free hypodermic syringes for the people living on the streets. These are all imported, artificial, created problems that we didn't have when people worked for a living and when we managed our forests. And so you can say thinning or clear cutting, but most important now is salvage. We got 400,000 acres of dead trees out there that were worth billions of dollars. And now we're using more taxpayer dollars to go in and do shaded fuel breaks and a bunch of academic nonsense, busy work at an enormous cost and no benefit to the people of Lane County.
And if you don't get those trees out of there within a year or two, they get infested with bugs and they're worthless. So you're looking at an investment. This is like having money sitting there on the floor of the forest that we could go in and put people to work. If you really cared about people and your schools and all that, this is stuff you can do. If you cared about that more than you do your bullshit climate agenda garbage, do your homework and look at the people. Go sit in Blue River and look at those people, what they're going through, and ask them what do they want to do. And that's what's so disgusting about this. But you know, that's one of the reasons you jumped into this race, I'm guessing, right?
It's one of the major reasons. And you can't go to Blue River and talk to those people because they're gone. They had to leave. The young people are leaving. The schools are on life support. The police are on life support. It's ridiculous. We should have thousands of more jobs just in Lane County and tens of millions of dollars of income to pay for these services. Instead, they're using funding and simultaneously they're fighting against ICE. They're fighting for more grants, and I'm going to put quotes around it. It's welfare that U.S. taxpayers pay for that we should be paying into these coffers. That's what we did for generations. And so the whole thing is just a artificial depression and dependency on other people. And our working people have moved out. They've been replaced a lot by low-cost illegal alien labor. And now the people are fighting to preserve that. So it's a reversible situation, but people have to become informed first.
I think that the message that's still out there that since I have you on here, I'd love to have you address this, is I hear people saying, well, yeah, but if you let those trees rot, that it'll fertilize the the forest floor. And that's why we leave all this here, to leave it more natural.
I think there's a saying that it's better to be silent and thought an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt. The oldest lands we have in Oregon are the Blue Mountains and the Siskiyous, and those go back to dinosaur times. And if you go to those areas, there's a lot of rock face. So there's millions of generations of trees that have come and gone. They didn't build the soil. The soil strips off. In the sandstone areas, you need the landslides in order to create spawning gravel, because the sandstone will break down over a while and not be useful gravel. So the influx of landslides is healthy for the salmon population. But the problem is the lack of salvage. It's the lack of active management of our lands. It's the use of taxpayer dollars to destroy roads and to put up gates and to keep people out of the public lands. And that just needs to be reversed. And it can be fairly quickly, because it was done fairly quickly in the early 90s with the Clinton plan. We need to get maybe a Trump plan. He likes naming things after himself, but they need to pay attention to what's going on here.
The felony attorney here says Blue River and McKinsey area, there's no jobs. You can't even get insurance on a house up there at a reasonable price.
And we've got Heather Buch looking for low-cost housing subsidized by American taxpayers. So you want a bunch of poor people or immigrant people to be moving into these houses in an area with no jobs. And there should be literally thousands of jobs. There is a lot of work that needs to be done that people used to do that have been eliminated. And the environmental organizations are just a front for the scam or the racket, however you want to call it.
And wouldn't that, it doesn't, I mean, I'm no marketing, well, I am a marketing genius, but I'm no, I understand that business, but it seems to me economically, if you have a lack of timber, which is what we mainly build sustainable, environmentally friendly homes with, then you would have a more affordable home.
Yep. And you could afford it because you'd have a job. You wouldn't be dependent on the government to help subsidize your home or your tent on a sidewalk.
Bob, what surprises you the most about, you're a scientist, you know the timber industry, you know that, but now coming into this political realm and watching the story, I mean, you always knew that, there were lies and stories that people were falling for and basing an economy. But when you look at what you've kind of seen behind the curtain, what did the wizard look like?
Well, what bothers me in the 1990s and stuff, I used to lecture, and I was going for my PhD, and I had good friends such as Starker and Hagenstein and people like that that knew what they were doing. Ralph Hall. I mean, those are people I knew personally, and there were other people like Aaron Jones, and they all said, beware of the bean counters. And they were exactly right. Right now, the most surprising thing to me is there's not been any industrial support, and particularly AFRC support, for what I'm doing. None. In fact, I almost oppositional. So that is a little bit of a surprise, but not too much. I was warned 30 years ago that this was the direction they were going.
So you're not getting much support from the timber industry?
Well, no, I will take it back. Ferris is helping out. They've been supportive, but they're in a different county. But in Lane County, no, zero. I would say it's been adversarial, if anything. Silent, non-existent.
Why adversarial?
Because they are looking at politics. You mix science and politics, you get politics. So they're looking at somebody that's younger, that can last longer, that they can put their money behind, so that they have somebody they can pay to do what they want, I guess. I think it's just they're looking for 3/5 majority in Lane County and extra people in Benton County, or I can't tell you for sure, but it's a lack of support for the issues and strong support for the political process as it is. And as you know, Republicans, the process here in Oregon is pretty sick. It's been bad for a few decades.
I just saw a poll today on the governor's race, and it was done by PBS, I think it was, or OPB. And I saw another one, and it was a little better, but it was still the same. But it's like, I sometimes feel like Oregonians are so, and especially the Republican Party, is so busy looking for the the name familiarity, the popular person, somebody that can get the, they're so desperate. I'm already not liked very much online right now, Bob, so I'm not helping myself at all.
I'm probably not helping you either.
No, you're not helping me. This is good. Yeah, but they're almost looking for this savior person rather than going. So they, and they wonder, they haven't had anybody in office in a governorship for over 40 years. And it's like, maybe you're doing something wrong and looking for the shiny penny rather than find somebody who actually can do the fucking job. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is our hope. This is our hope. And it's like, I don't know that you're putting your hope in this thing. And it's like, when do you go and say, who's the best candidate? And, and I understand once one person is the nominee, everybody should support that person because you don't want Kotek. Nothing's worse than Tina Kotek as governor again. We've seen that. She's a lame duck before she was even lame. She wouldn't have even got even duck status. But it's like this fight that goes, and then it's always about who gets the most money. How disgusting has that been for you?
It's been not disgusting, but there's a reason that I was a non-voting libertarian for 40 years. The money thing is what drives the whole thing. And the way they gather it, they rate their popularity by how much money they get. And then they use the money for radio ads and name familiarity, not for the issues. They're not discussing the issues. And that's why I think I've been somewhat successful in that I'm getting the issues discussed by the other candidates. Not to expose them, but to educate them, because it's going to take a lot of commissioners, Republican or even Democrat, that starts paying attention to the waste of our forests and the destruction we're doing to our rural towns and start making a difference in these problems. So it's the fact they're not paying attention to the issues, and the fact that they're blowing a lot of money on name recognition is why I'm not a politician, really.
What's funny is what's so enjoyable about talking to you is your heart is really in the right place.
With my great-grandkids, this is just not right to be leaving future generations.
So how do you feel about the EWEB and the Leaburg Dam destruction proposal? Have you heard? I'm sure you've heard about this. Been awfully quiet since Trump came in, and looks like they moved out their timeline. It's going to cost a fortune.
I think the Klamath Dam removal, the Leaburg Dam problems, I think those are dumb decisions made by popular vote because people have been indoctrinated. And I'm including 2 generations of professors, scientists, students into believing that modeling is science, and that the modelers are showing how important it is to salmonids, that we don't have roads, or to the spotted owl. And it's ridiculous. There's no science-based, there's no actual scientific basis to those claims. There might be science or engineering to removing a dam or predicting the results, but modeling is a tool. It's not science, and what they're doing is destructive to the environment and the rural communities. It's documented.
The problem that people are going to have with you, Bob, is you really are a scientist. I mean, they can talk about science, but you do it, and you know it, and you understand it. How gullible are we as a population?
Well, we've got a lot of people quoting science that don't know what science is. We don't teach actual scientific methodology in our schools through the highest levels. I went through my PhD as a middle-aged, experienced forest manager and contractor, and the science they were teaching was of a lesser quality than I got in Grant High School in Portland in the 1960s. I mean, carbon dioxide is a pollutant, 75-foot stream-side buffers for no apparent reason other than government control of your buffer strip. It's got nothing to do with fish. It's got everything to do with politics.
Terrie says, it doesn't matter what political party a person is, you need to do your research on each person and make your choice and issue. I'm going to throw in there, Terrie. And I 100% agree. I have never seen so many people turn on me since I started questioning Trump and the war. because he said he wasn't going to do that. And everybody can go, oh, man, you can make up all the excuses you want. I've got it on video. He said he wasn't going to do that. And I feel defeated and I'm angry because you tricked me. He tricked me. And I'm not happy about that. And as soon as you do that, man, and I'm hearing all the sound bites from the news coming at me through people on my pages going, well, what about 47 years and rah, 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 and all this kind of stuff like that. And I'm going, what about the basics that he lied? You know what I mean? And I'm not asking you to weigh in on Trump because I don't want you to get yourself in trouble. I can do that. But it's like, we don't care about, and I've heard this for years when I was a journalist too, is people say, well, politicians lie. Mm-hmm. Bullshit. So we give them a pass because they lie. No, you don't get, they do, but if we would start holding them accountable and putting their feet to the fire and saying, no, if you're going to burn up my forest and allow this to happen, I want to see the science. Show me. Commissioners who don't vote for this, show me the science. I want to see it. Don't just tell me that it's science. You show me that there's science, and you can do that.
Yep, and that's why I'm unpopular and been canceled for 30 years. The people that I associated with in the 80s and 90s were some really great scientists. Ben Stout and even Starker and others. I knew them personally. We talked, we visited together, but they're all older than me. I was a young person in forestry, but we were equals in that we had similar objectives and similar capabilities, but complementary capabilities. So they warned about this happening. And the one person you quoted, they said, well, we should vote for somebody based on their positions and issues. And yes, that's true. And you're talking about maybe 1% of the population that does that. So that's, we should have managed our land. We should have voted in people that actually represent our interests. We should be voting for people that can make a difference, but we don't do that because we've been conditioned not to do that.
Well, I think part of the problem is, Bob, I love having this conversation with you. This is like therapy for me. You're like my dad or somebody that's, offering me some therapy. But it's like we get these political consultants and they come in, and when I ran, they tried to do the same thing, and I would not do it. I was like, no, that's I'm a human being. I understand human nature. There's a lot of things. Put me in a physics lab, I'll flunk. Put me in a math class, basic algebra, I'm dead. But you put me around people, I understand how this works. And they still do it. I see the same stupid ads, like, and they get their things down. We're going to stop homelessness. We're going to start mental health. This, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. What the fuck are you really going to do? You know what I mean?
They're going to give themselves a $25,000 raise and then complain that the new mental health facility is underfunded from the state and they need more money. That's what they do. And it's disgusting. It's not the reason I ran, though, to get rid of that system. The reason I ran is they're not paying attention to the issues. We've got very serious issues regarding air pollution, jobs, schools, police, forests, wildlife, and they're ignoring those, and they're coming up with the pie in the sky. I'm going to do something about homeless, and they're great. We've got more homeless than ever. I'm going to do something about street people. Great. We never had people living on the street for the first 40 years of my life. This is all an invented industry, and it needs to stop. And that's why I'm running.
Lane County, Oregon, has become Club Med for every freeloader and homeless person. And when I say homeless, I'm not talking about, what I get disgusted with is places like Oregon that you're taking care of other people's homeless and people who just don't want to be around and are hiding and want free services. So you offer free medical services and housing and everything. Well, of course those people are going to come there. It's like Club Med instead of requiring people. And what happens to the truly homeless Lane County, Oregon people? They don't get those things. They're overlooked. They just get lost in the fray. I hear so many people who go, I can't get anything. But if you're an illegal immigrant, you can get, if you're a veteran and you're homeless, they leave you out on the fucking street. If you're an illegal homeless person, they put you up in a 5-star hotel. I mean, what the hell is that? That's not America.
They've been using nonprofits and non-tax-paying organizations to build structures for farm workers. And most of the farm workers, 40 to 60%, are here illegally. I think they need the actual workers, not the sex workers or the drug traffickers or the thieves, but the actual solid workers that came here sincerely for work. Maybe 20% of all of the immigrants should be given steady jobs, good pay so they can afford a regular home, not have to be subsidized, taken off of food stamps, taken off Section 8 housing, taken away from all of the freebies, the driver's license and everything they give them, and let them have a legitimate path to citizenship, have to speak English. The reason we're printing all these documents in Spanish by the government is they're catering to the people, not the illegals that speak Spanish, which is most of them, but the people that are taking advantage of them, the people that are using them are the ones that they're working and encouraging. And it's just like slavery in the 1860s. It's a modern day slave trade, and the Democrats are 100% behind it and supporting it and encouraging it.
Well, and what other culture allows people to do this? I mean, what other countries, Sweden, other countries, they're not going to put up with this stuff, and we bend over backwards for it. And it's like unbelievable. John, I put your message up here. You said you're trying to figure out how to communicate with me. I have a video and some photographs I would like to share with you. I would suggest, John, since you're the guy who was saying that the Forest Service is cutting down all the timber in the forest, I 100% disagree with you. But you need a scientist or somebody like that, because you know what? I'm not going to agree with you, and you and I are just going to go at it, and it's going to be ugly. But why don't you send those to Bob? Because Bob is a scientist. So if you want real answers, you don't need to convince me, because I'm not convincible. I'm just telling you. I've seen it. I work in this. I do a special project about timber. I know what's going on, and I guess what I'm saying is I'm not interested. And I know that's rude and it's probably not nice, but it's like, I know you're wrong, but Bob is a scientist, so he can tell you you're wrong, but he can give you the science to back that up. Because if you think the Forest Service is overcutting the forest, that you're just 100% mistaken. I think even the Forest Service would tell you that. The people that I know who I've interviewed who work in the Forest Service, they're stuck and they know it, and they would never agree with you on that. So I'm just laying it out there for you, buddy. I'm not really that interested in that conversation. But you are being rude by sicking him on to me. Hey, you're a politician until after the election. I know. That's one of my favorite things is I did it too. I'm not a politician. Well, yes, I was, because I was running for politics in office. So once I signed the line and paid my whatever it was, to run for Secretary of State, I was. Go drive up to Breitenbush. It looks like absolute shit. Yep. Okay, and you can drive through most of the Cascades these days, or Eastern Oregon, or parts of Idaho, or Wyoming, or Montana, or New Mexico, or especially Northern California. Here's what the people like John need to be told. One, don't send me a fucking bunch of emails. I don't need to be convinced by people that don't know what they're talking about. In the last 25 years, the U.S. Forest Service has kept careful records. We have logged 9,000 acres of old growth in 25 years. We've actually clear-cut 9,000 acres. We've lost 180,000 acres, a lot of it in roadless areas and wilderness, to bugs and disease. 180,000, 20 times as much land lost through lack of active management than to logging. And the big number is 700,000 acres of old growth. Forest Service numbers have been lost to catastrophic wildfires. So 1 or 2% of the old growth being logged that's the mortality for those old growth. It turns into homes and useful products and jobs and tax money. But 880,000 acres are lost to neglect and poor, gross mismanagement. And it's not the Forest Service fault. It's the regulations, it's the litigation, and those were crafted by Congress, who was 60% lawyers at the time. The environmental law industry had no members and before 1969. Now there's 30,000 environmental lawyers pulling the strings, using the nonprofits to file lawsuits.
and then using the legitimate industry to fight the lawyers that are initiating the litigation. So we've got them playing both sides of the fence, and all they're doing is destroying our rural communities and our forests and our wildlife and our air.
Bob, I feel like
you're doing great.
But Bob, I love that, because I feel like you're my dad, and it's like you're standing there going,
I'm
okay,
old enough.
Dad, go on. Say no, but explain to people too. Here's a disgusting little bunch of crap that we actually are paying for these lawyers. The taxpayers, the taxpayers of America are paying for environmental lawyers to fight timber sales, and we're paying them like triple what they're supposed to be paid. Explain that.
Well, the whole thing, I'm going to give a real quick history lesson.
Okay.
Environmental Access to Justice Act came in 1980. In 1969, we formed NEPA, and we formed the Environmental Law Institution on the same day. 60% of the people in Congress were lawyers. They voted for NEPA and created the environmental law industry. In 1973, those lawyers went in and rewrote the Endangered Species Act to tell us how to manage our land and what critical habitat was. In 1980, the Environmental Access to Justice Act came in, and it said for poor people, military veterans, small businesses that are damaged by the U.S. government could file suit against the government, and if they prevailed, the taxpayers would not only pay their damages, but would pay for their lawyers. So that has turned into a giant industry of environmental lawsuits, litigation, and the spotted owl was the gold mine. And then they added murrelets and some kinds of salamanders and things like that. But the population of spotted owls has plummeted ever since. They're taking their cousins that they produce viable young with, the hoot owl, the brown-eyed barred owl, and now we're paying taxpayer dollars to go out and systematically do racial purity. It was like we got two races of the same brown-eyed hoot owl. One's got spots, one's got stripes. They produce viable young. They call them spart owls. And we have taxpayers that are paying for the systematic slaughter of the offspring and the barred owls themselves. It's crazy.
So we're killing like 500,000 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Isn't that what it is? Like 500,000 barred owls.
It's disgusting.
So we, as human beings, we are so good at managing wildlife and forests that we fucked up the spotted owl habitat. Now it wasn't the spotted owl or the industry that was destroying the spotted owl habitat. It was the barred owl that was destroying the and nobody said, oops, sorry, killed the whole industry. And it was the barred owl, and now they're mating and creating. So what? We're here to determine genealogy. Like if the barred owl thinks that the spotted owl is sexy and they have a baby together, who the hell are we? We're not God. And we go in there and tell them. But anyway, my point was that we had a law that was supposed to be used for people that were poor and that kind of thing. Lawyers got in there, tweaked it, and now they are using that law to pay themselves from the tax dole so that they can charge millions of dollars to fight these lawsuits and create these lawsuits. So every timber worker in America, every person who does not support this agenda, we are paying these people to do this devastating, horrible work. How shitty does that make you feel?
Well, and the point is, when they put that in, it was for poor people and military and so on. About 3 or 4 days before they put it in, they debated it for about a year. The person heading it, and he's no longer alive, but he was powerful at the time, put in nonprofits. So the Sierra Club, Oregon Wild, and those people, and then at the University of Oregon, where they had the environmental law school, they became the experts on litigation regarding spotted owls and old growth. And the protests started in my district, District 5, with the Warner Creek protests.
I remember that.
Cascadia. Yeah, then they burnt down the ranger station. Then Clinton, in between there, came in and said, we're not going to salvage any more dead trees because the dead trees in Warner Creek used to be spotted owl habitat. And now we're going to let nature take its course. So nature did in 2022, all that fuel they left behind burnt again. at a greater cost to taxpayers. It should have built thousands of homes and created thousands of jobs and millions of dollars for our police and our school teachers, and it instead created welfare dependency.
So, God, there's just so much here. Bob, this has been the most fun show I've done in a long time.
This is going to cost advertising dollars, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I've lost over 1,000 people just for taking a stand on what I do, but I like who you are, man, because I hope I'm like you when I get a little bit older, because I don't ever want to be a bootlicker, and I'm not going to be a sucker, and I'm not going to suck up to people. If they don't like what I say, then they don't have to be here, but I'm telling the truth, and I do my research, and I understand what I'm talking about. And you can disagree with us, but that doesn't make you right. And, and I think that I hope that Trump stays on this with the forestry stuff. And I hope, I really, like I said, I told you, I met Schultz and I really liked him. I thought he's that because 2 years ago, I was at the Oregon Logging Conference in Eugene, and I met the previous Forest Service dumbass. And I was not impressed with him at all. Those loggers in that room, it was so great. They're all sitting there like this, and he's giving them their his bullshit. And these are like rugged people who understand bullshit more than anybody. And they're not taking any of it. That was my first question to him too, Bob. I said, so did you notice that nobody in that room was really believing what you said? And he didn't care. He didn't even care. It was nothing to him.
Was it Randy Moore?
Yep.
He failed with managing the forests of California, and so they promoted him to DC. And I think everybody is aware it's a DEI hire. He was totally unqualified for the position, and he cost the United States billions and billions of dollars. He almost single-handedly destroyed the remnants of the Forest Service through gross mismanagement. So it is why for 30 years we failed. We put people like that in charge. We have elected people like Heather Buch, and nobody is familiar. Anybody under 40 or that moved to Oregon in the last 40 years thinks this is normal, because it is normal to them. And it's just gross, disgusting crap. And we gotta fix it for our grandkids and great grandkids.
Well, Bob, I hope that it would be really cool if, when this election goes, if you don't win, I think that we should talk to Jake Pelroy when he does win. If it's one of the two of you, and he should put you on as, his timber liaison or something. And
I told him that just the other night. I stay in contact with Jake. He's got to learn about forestry and forestry issues. He's got far more chance of winning. He's got the Republican machine behind him. People, I think, are wising up to Heather Buch's $25,000 raise and no work. So I think, and that's what I've told him, that he should hire me as a forester. And he told me, well, Marion County's got one. I wasn't saying county, I said him. But I don't need a job working for a county commissioner, but it would be good to be a consultant to AFRC or AOC or Oregon O&C Counties, people that have direct contact with our representatives, elected officials, and that are wanting to make a difference and wanting to learn what the problems are and wanting to learn what the solutions are, because it's not just me. There's a lot of old people around that are pretty pissed off, wanting to fix things.
Well, Bob is in a group that I'm in as well. I mean, I get their emails and stuff. And there's a whole group of former Forest Service people, former scientists, former industry folks. And this is a bunch of older guys who are like the Moseses of this part of the country. And, Bob, I think you missed the boat. Yeah, you need me to market for you. You know what your theme should be? You should walk into your thing with the 10 commandments of timber work, and you smash them on the ground and you say, "Let my people go." And that's let my loggers go back in. They are no longer loggers. They are habitat restoration specialists. And they're going to go in, they're going to restore this forest. Let my people go. Let the people of Blue River and McKenzie River thrive again, have jobs again. Let them feel good about themselves again. Let my people go. Let Heather go away. Go get a job in the private sector and see how that works out for her. You can't give yourself a $25,000 raise.
You're talking about the National Wildfire Alliance, and most of the guys are older. We got 3 guys in their 90s. Our president is 90. Most of the guys are in their 80s, and most of them have 30, 40, 50 years of high-level wildfire management experience, forest management experience. I'm editing the new newsletter, and so we are getting the word out. They've got good connections with Schultz, with Fennessy, and we are trying to make a difference this year because of the change in administration. Same reason I'm running for office. It's the same reason NWA, and I've been a member for 18 years or something, and some of us have been conversing for 30 and 35 years, a lot of us. Just in different
What's your website that people could go to? Do you know?
For NWA?
Yeah.
NWA Solutions.
NWA
Solution. They were going to make it plural and made a typo.
Solution at?
Well, it's HTTP. As you could go to my campaign website and
okay. How do they go there? I'm typing it in the comments.
Zybach for Lane, ZYBACHFORLANE.com. I got a donate button, and I got all kinds of links that'll go to NWA and into my writings on these topics.
Okay, so you guys, you can go to zybach4lane.com. I put it in there so it came up on all the pages. If you want to know, I would suggest, who is our friend, the guy who thinks he knows the forest?
John, what's his name?
Yeah, John. John, if you're still on here, you're probably not. But if you are, you should go to Bob's page. Don't write him and ask him any questions. But you can go on there and read his writing. Bob's going to come find me. Hey, Bob, good luck. And thank you so much for this conversation and for all you and all those old guys, our elders. We need you. We value you. You need to be a part of this conversation, because if we don't listen to the people who are coming before us, we're in big trouble. And I see God saying that all over the Bible, is to be watching and listening to the elders. And you guys, you are the guys. And that doesn't mean you're old. That just means you're an elder.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and I've made us both more unpopular.
Yeah. I really need that kind of help, Bob.
About that.
I'll see you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
And vice versa. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. See ya. Wow, I needed that. That was like therapy for me. You know, I mean, you guys, you learn. I'm learning something really cool in my life right now at 60, almost 67 years old coming up. If you don't stand for something that you believe in, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you don't question the things that people tell you, and you just feed off of the propaganda tit, you can't do that. We are called to be active members of our community. And I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but you know what? I do my research. And I don't just go out on a limb. And when I make a mistake, I confess my mistake. Some of our current leaders right now could really learn from that. Like maybe say, okay, maybe this was a bad decision and we need to pull back because America is suffering right now. That's why God says, humble yourself and pray. And pray for yourself for discernment. So when you hear something that sounds like bullshit, that you know it's bullshit, because otherwise what happens is you start to eat it and it tastes like shit at first, but after a while you get used to it. And we live in a culture that has gotten used to being fed bullshit, and we can't even sense the difference between that and healthy, good quality food. information, science. Somebody who wrote on my page today, "You've just changed," and they didn't mean it in a good way. And I thought to myself with a big smile on my face, I have, I am, I will always change. I will always go towards the way of the truth. And you can stay here and play, or you can go away. I don't mean that arrogantly. I just mean it's not going to change what I do or how I do it. Have a good night. I think we might have a show tomorrow night. I've got a guy I'm waiting for to hear back from. I don't know. We've invited Chris Dudley, Drazen, Ed Deal, and Daniel Bethel all to come back and be on the show. So you get one last listen to all these candidates running for governor in Oregon. I know I didn't invite Tina. I almost felt bad. Not. See you guys later. I know I'm having way too much fun. I'll see you later. Thanks, Bob.